Hello, everybody out there. Welcome back to the second episode of the Flint and Steel podcast, which Sheldon kind of reminded me it's really not a podcast. It's kind of just a live show. I didn't know there was a difference. We got 7 people out there, and tonight we actually have a subject. And if you guys would like us to discuss other subjects, shout them out in the comments. In future episodes. Not guaranteeing we will, but it's always good to have ideas. Now, I made a complete full-scale hour-plus video on the subject of Colt 1860 armies about 4 years ago. And a lot of that has fled my mind. But Sheldon is an 1860 army fanatic. And so I think it's safe to say that he will jog my memory, and I will try to help him out wherever I can. Is the 1860 your favorite revolver?
I would say it is.
You got a bunch of them.
Yeah, like 4, I think. 2 Pietas. 4. One Uberti and the Belgian one.
Mm-hmm. Well, what was your first 1860 army?
A Pieta. That day I got that Pieta, went to a pawn shop and they had an 1860 Henry, so I put that on layaway.
There you go. Did you get the Henry that day?
No, I had to pay that one off slowly.
I always say that, that song Colt Wall used to sing, My Friend Henry, My Friend Sam. I really think that's a Henry rifle and a 60 Army. They just go together like peanut butter and jelly, don't they?
Yeah. They're really nice together, but that Henry, it was 44 Winchester, and I traded that to some guy in Colorado for one 45 Colt, and then that one is now in Duke's hands, so they both ended up in Colorado.
Oh my! So I went back quite a ways with the 1860. I had a Uberti and a Pieta, and I owned them, but I never shot them. The very first 1860 I ever pulled the trigger on was the original. And I was hooked because that was one of the first originals I had ever shot. And that was the first time I realized, hey, it doesn't cap jam. Not like the Uberti I had did.
Yeah.
And so when it's not my favorite, I love it, but I have a thing for 36s. And I just like the history of the 51 Navy goes back a little further. But if I was legitimately living 19th century and had to pick one of the Colt revolvers, it probably would be the 60 Army just for that little bit of extra power factor in a gun about the same size as 51 Navy.
Yeah. No, like mine was, like I said, mine was a Pieta, and I've got it because I was wanting one because I only had the Navy.
Mm-hmm.
I had 2 Navies, and I kind of just wanted a 60 Army, so that's when Cabela's had them for us still about upper 200s.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought mine and one. And I was enjoying it when I was shooting, enjoying it.
But don't you have that very close to original copy from Belgium?
I got that one last year around September. And I went to the gun show, and the guy had it with the stock. So I was like, "How much did you want for it?" I said, $600. Like, deal.
You can't touch it. You can't hardly touch a Uberti for that these days.
Right.
And a Cimarron especially. Okay, so we better get into the history of it, but let's go through a few of these comments, see who all is here. Young Farm said, howdy. Howdy. Soylent Green said hello. JDB 1878 said, evening, gents. Turkey Creek's here. Hi, Turkey Creek. He said, howdy, boys. Diane Houston said, good evening, gentlemen. Louisiana Gray said, good evening to you, Garrett and Sheldon. Cap and Ball Fanatics here. I heard he's doing well. He had some surgery, I think, this morning or yesterday, but I was texting him. He said he came out of it and everything's good.
That's good.
Yeah, Young Farms through. What is this show? Hee-haw with the overalls? Usually I would be in my older clothes, but I just came in from work and turned the thing on, and that was it. Let's see. Soylent Green said, I was reading about the history of peanut butter recently, and the original peanut butter and jelly sandwich was actually peanut butter and honey. Well, that makes sense. Travis Lynn said, Garrett washed up for this video. Yes, I did. Yes, I did. I actually, after I was done working cattle this morning, I went and took a shower before I got in the tractor because I did not want all that dirt in that tractor with me. Young Farm said, I think I have a Repo Navy. Can't remember who made it. Got it for $150, so that's not bad. Joshua Harris says, evening, everyone. Yeah, Soylent Green said, Gray Pilgrim here in spirit. That is absolutely true. Gray Pilgrim, I have just tons of emails from Gray Pilgrim. He used to email me every day. And it was several months ago. I think I even texted Sheldon about it. I don't remember, but I went back through some of those emails, and he would email me like consistently. Sometimes I didn't even have a chance to answer them all. So about a couple months ago, I looked back, and he said, as an email that said 411 bang bang. And I opened it up, and it was just tons of music. Some of it was already on his YouTube channel. Some of it he recorded just for 11 Bang Bang. He wrote me this email. He said, I hope you use this in your videos. And I opened the very first song, and before he even started playing guitar, he gave this little line. He said, well, now that I figured out how to record this, he goes, in case I croak, this will all be online somewhere. And I have used that song in just about every video. I even used it as the, I cut that little talking part out, but I even used it as the voiceover or over Sheldon's voiceover for the blanket gun. But yeah, you mentioned him. Yes, he is here in spirit, and you actually are hearing a lot of his music on Smoke in the Woods now. Cool Hand 209 said, good evening, gentlemen. Garrett, did you see any updates on that stolen? I haven't kept up with Ian for a while. I didn't know anything got stolen. I'll have to look that up. I guess I don't keep. I should. I've always liked Ian, but I haven't kept up with what's going on with him. Have you heard anything about this, Sheldon?
No.
Something got stolen from Ian? I would assume you're talking about Ian McCollum. Mill Creek Range says, hello, everybody. Captain Ball Junkie, hi. He says, good evening. By the way, Captain Ball Junkie and Rooster and the Captain Ball Fanatic had an excellent live chat the other day. Once we're done here, you should go check that out. But don't go. Don't leave. Not yet. You got to hear Sheldon's wisdom on the 18th.
My wisdom.
All right. I don't even have my book pulled up here. Do you have Pate's book handy in case we need it?
Yeah, it's behind me. I can grab it real quick.
Okay, go ahead and do that, and just in case we need it. And that video on Western guns. I better turn Sheldon's microphone off. Who knows what he's going to say? A video on Western guns. I am not sure. I haven't seen it. I saw a video on how to make repo guns that he did, but I haven't seen a video on Western guns or anything stolen.
I got it.
Gotcha. Okay. So, you ready to head back? I think you got to go. When you're talking about the 1860 Army, we got to go back before the dawn of time, don't we?
Do we?
All the way back to at least 1847, I believe, is where we're going to have to start this story.
Do we have to? I mean,
You know what? Okay, so quick catch up, quick brush up. The first Colt revolvers, obviously, were the Pattersons, coming out in 1836, actually 1837. But patented in 36, actually patented, I believe, April 13th of March 13th. Whatever it was literally the patent was issued while the Alamo was going on. Hi, Rivero 311. And he comes out with the Patterson revolver, which is actually, I think, first produced in 28 caliber. The very first one he made. And it would move around. He did a 31 caliber, a 36 caliber, but what they call the number one, I believe it is, the Baby Patterson, was 28 caliber pocket pistol. And he bumps it up to 31 caliber, and he bumps it up to 36 caliber. And by the time we get to the number 5, which is the Texas model Patterson, we have a 36 caliber 5-shot revolver. Fast forward a few years because we're not talking about the Patterson here. We're going to fast forward to 1846. December of 1846, we have a man named Samuel Walker. Mexican-American Wars kicking off. He comes up to Colt, says he would like a 44 caliber 6-gun. It's all in the history books now that they got together and over the course of about 2 months designed the Colt Walker. They made about 1,075 of them. A lot of people say 1,100, but I think it's closer to 1,075, 1,000 for the military, about 75 civilian guns. Wasn't the best design, had a lot of issues, but they wanted to keep the 44 caliber guns. Colt went back to the drawing board, came up with the first model. I know Sheldon don't like me using models. He doesn't believe in the term in models. They're types. But he comes out with the Dragoon, which is about a 4-pound revolver. And there for a long time, for a while, the only 36 you have is the Patterson. And then in 48, he comes out with the Dragoon. So you have the Patterson and Dragoon side by side. And then in 1848, he comes out with the Baby Dragoon, which is the 31 caliber small variation. 49, we come out with 49 pocket model. 1850, we come out with the 51 Navy, and that does away with, that's the introduction to 36 for the modern lineup of firearms. Everybody loves the 51 Navy. It's Colt's legendary 51 Navy. I read about that a lot. Colt's legendary 51 Navy until we get up to about 1858, and Colt really wants to produce and I need to let Sheldon in here, but really wants to produce a 44 caliber gun that is not 4 pounds and a gigantic horse pistol. Although, if you've been watching the membership videos, you'll realize that we found a reference that said they did not just carry both pistols on their holster. By 1858, the way to carry it was 1 pistol on the holster, 1 pistol on the belt. We've discussed that in a few membership videos in the past. But anyway, 1858 seems to be the year because the Army is trying to get stocks on the Dragoon. They're changing the sights, and they come up with this idea. Colt has had this idea for a long time that he wants to make a 44 caliber gun in the 36 Navy frame, and he just can't do it. I'm going to let you chime in here, Sheldon. I feel like I'm saying everything. And I know you've got a lot of history of this study, too.
I mean, you're doing good. What was it? About that time he was working on his root revolvers.
Mm-hmm.
He designed one in 44, but I'm pretty sure I think it was about as big as a Walker.
Yeah, the Army said it gave no advantage over the Dragoon outside of it was heavier than the Dragoon. And it's just a giant pistol.
And when they were designing the 44, all they did, the original one was a slim down Dragoon first, and that was probably. Was there a surviving prototype of that, or just like a drawing of one?
Not that I've seen. Only the drawing is what I've seen of the lightened Dragoon model. But it was the very first in 1858, I believe it was.
And so they designed that the prototype. They probably did have one, but probably vanished. From what was it? Was it they wrote down? It was just ungainly, kind of.
Yeah,
wonky.
It was. They were already. They had already come up with things like the root loading lever had already been on the 55 root pistol.
Yeah.
And people really liked that new style loading lever. People liked the rounder barrel. They wanted to differentiate it from the old, what they call the old holster pistol or the old model Army. So the big thing was they weren't selling to the government because the government had a no patented firearms rule put in place because of fighting going on between Sharps and not even Remington yet, but mostly Sharps and Colt over the use of Colt's not breech loading, but Colt's revolving carbines with the shoulder stocks. It was going up against Sharps, what they were developing, which was the Sharps 18 want to say 51 is what it. No. What's the Sharps? I can't remember. I've owned one. I forgot what it was.
58 Sharps.
Yeah, whatever the Sharps was, the Sharps carbine paper cutter was going up against, and it was such a big mess, and people going back and forth, that Congress just said no patented arms, period. And so Colt then had to differentiate it from the old pistol because he had to sell it to the civilian market, and he had to prove to them this is better than that.
Well, I was before that happened, their second prototype was a 40 caliber Navy.
Yes.
And then they started screwing around with the Navy with the belted cylinder, and rounded up Navy for barrel to make their prototype.
Mm-hmm. There's 7 different prototypes that could be called 51 Navies and 44 caliber because all of them have shorter grips. All of them have 51 Navy grips, and most of them have 51 Navy style loading lever. But there's one true 51 Navy in 44 caliber. It does exist. We've looked at it many times, and I might try to bring a picture of it up here if you want to talk about it a little bit, Sheldon.
I'm a little fuzzy on the details on the prototype.
I won't grab it. Okay, so
but they originally had the Navy grip, and then once the Army trialed it, they wanted the old model grip, the old Army style grip on it. So the early ones, especially for first production, I think with the first couple hundred of the 60 Armies, the trigger guard was the Navy frame. The Navy trigger guard was just the little brass spacer in there to extend it.
That came up because they had 5 prototypes that we've talked about. The very first one moving through was a 40 caliber, and then moving on up there, a 40 caliber wasn't a big enough change. They want to make it a 44 or 45 caliber. So they move up, they change the grips. They make one revolver with a grip, the old style loading lever, the fluted, and a octagon barrel. Well, it starts octagon and then goes to round. But it is technically a 51 Navy and 44 caliber. After that, they make one, and there's not a lot of information on this, but they make actually 2, what they call them, the Model M's, which are completely 1860 Armies with 51 Navy grips. They take them to the Army for trials. Army loves them. But the Army says in 1858, this is 1860, in 1858, we ordered a whole bunch of stocks for your Dragoon pistols. And we want this gun to go on those stocks we've already bought. So make the grip the same length as the Dragoon grip so we can just put these stocks on there if we wanted to. And the Army style grip was born. That completed the 1860 Army, in my opinion.
Because it sounds like, I mean, the Army really wanted the 60 Army to be that carbine, that revolver carbine combination.
Yep.
And that just didn't work out. And I see why it didn't work out.
Yep. And I just find it so interesting because all this testing was just for naught, and they knew it because they knew they couldn't adopt it anyway. But I think Colt was like, this is not going to last forever because everybody saw war was on the horizon.
Yeah.
And I think everybody knew, get all your testing in now because even if this no patent law exists, it won't exist for very long.
And then the government kind of just threw it out the window when they needed arms.
But that was not the first, he didn't sell the 60 Army. Colt did not sell the 60 Army to the United States military first.
Yep.
He didn't even sell it just to the Texas Rangers first. He sold it to Confederate
Georgia.
States. Yes, Georgia.
South Carolina.
Yeah.
West Virginia.
A bunch of them.
And then, at the time, they didn't secede just yet.
Nope.
I think. So technically, just selling to, he's still selling them to the states, but at that time,
I ran across one order that he did sell to Richmond that was sold directly to the CSA. And I can't remember how many it was. You have to go back and watch in the video, but there is one order. But it was before everybody had seceded. So it was like right pushing. Like he sold it, shipped it, and then the what do you call it? The blockade came into effect the day or the day after that he shipped it, and so some of them slipped through, some of them did not. But I'll let you carry this on a ways. But the most popular, the most talked about pre-army sales, of course, were going to Texas.
I hope I could say this in ways that would be in order because I don't put things in order as I can tell right now. But it's like I was like I always hear that when he sold those first fluted cylinders to the Texas Rangers, it's like he just quietly rolled it off later the Colt manufacturing rolled it off later down the line.
Yep. They never got paid.
They never got paid. They just rolled off, and it's like I don't know. Maybe being pessimistic, but I just don't think thinking he had that much of a soft spot for Texas.
No, but I think he thought they would pay him back.
I think so. I think because
he died before. I mean, he died right there. Right afterwards.
So if we could put everything in timeline, the 60 Army was being developed in roughly 58, 59.
Mm-hmm.
Comes out early January of 1860, roughly. Around that time, it's getting tested by the Army, but they can't really buy it because of no patent law.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia and some of the other southern states buy it in bulk as they could at the time because Colt was only making them in batches.
Mm-hmm.
And then
Colt was going to open a warehouse in the South and just stock it, but he never got a chance.
All I can say is Colt's the true American businessman. He doesn't care.
He does not care. I will say, I don't know that he had a soft spot like that for Texas, but I do think he had a soft spot like that for the Rangers. Maybe. Because, I mean, if it wasn't for the Texas Rangers, Colt firearms would not exist today.
Yeah.
All the way from the Patterson to the Walker to the Dragoon to the 51 Navy. Everybody idolized Texas Rangers at that point in history. And it was their testimony that put him on the map. So I think he had a spot for the Rangers. Maybe he didn't care that much about Texas, but he had a spot for the Rangers in his heart.
Maybe.
Probably not 1,000 guns worth, but,
because he was selling those guns at, what, $25 a piece, roughly, at 1,000. That's a...
Yeah. And it's a big misconception because these are all the early guns that have completely fluted cylinders. If you guys have never seen it, look up like a McCulloch Colt. They're called McCulloch Colts because Ben McCulloch was the one who talked him into selling them to the Texas Rangers. Supposedly promising some people, I've heard this for years, but I have looked and looked and looked. Supposedly McCulloch told him, if you sell it to us, we won't use them against the Union. I've never seen that. Has anybody else ever seen that written?
I've never really looked into it.
I've never seen that, and I've looked and looked, but maybe I'm missing it. But I do know that he said it was to be used for frontier defense. So Colt sent these down there, and everybody has the misconception that because the guns have fluted cylinders, that the walls are so thin, the cylinders burst. Cylinders did burst. But it was not because the walls were so thin where it was fluted. They burst because the front of the cylinder was beefed up and bigger for the 44 caliber, but the back was still the same size as the 51 Navy. And the cylinder stop notches are cut right directly in line with the chambers. So what he was doing was blowing guns up through the stop notch cylinder, out the back, not the front. Had nothing to do with how thick the walls of the fluted cylinder were. It had to do with how deeply the notch was cut in the back of the cylinder for the stop notch.
Well, wasn't it it was that, and when he changed out the chambers, because originally chambers were just like straight, like that, straight. Yeah. Then they got wedged to help prevent that. You should do a chamber cast.
Yeah.
On your original versus an Uberti.
Yeah. So they technically originals hold less powder than modern ones. because modern ones with better steel are straight.
Yeah.
Originals, after they kept blowing them up, I believe maybe you could back me up because I can't remember exactly because it's in Pate's book, where at one point he asked how the tests are going, and they said we tested 60 revolvers today, and they reported that all 60 of them popped cylinders. And people were complaining. The military was complaining. I guess Texas Rangers weren't complaining too bad because they weren't going to get a refund or a replacement.
No.
So, yeah, but it was the cylinder stop notch. And so Colt's design was to funnel or cone the base of the cylinder down to a V where he could put more meat behind the cylinder stop notch. And all originals start out really wide. They don't even cut a ring on a round ball. They never were designed to. Because think about it. If you cut a ring on a paper cartridge, what have you done? You've just cut all the lube off the paper cartridge. And so they're designed to be really wide at the top. You shove it in and it swages down and seals from chain fire by swaging into this cone. And so that was the big thing that's different from the originals to the modern reproductions. They hold a little less powder and they have coned chambers.
Pate's book has 2 pictures of modified Dragoons.
You can show it if you got it there. Show it to the camera.
It's modified pictures of the Dragoons, the lightened ones.
Mm-hmm.
Hopefully YouTube doesn't take us down.
No, I don't think so. Yeah. It's just a smaller Dragoon. It's kind of like the Danson brothers.
The fact that Danson brothers, I mean, you got Noah has his, and it's like they accomplished what Colt couldn't do.
Yeah, mostly by removing those recoil shields. Well, I don't know that Colt couldn't do it. Colt didn't want to do it because there's not a commercial branding behind it like there is the new gun. By changing just the streamlined look of it. But I will say that the fluted cylinders had such a bad reputation that even though he knew the fluted cylinders weren't blowing up because they were fluted, he did away with them and put that big, beefy, belted cylinder that we see today, or rebated cylinder, whatever you want to call it, just to get over the stigma of this gun blows up a lot.
That seems to be like a little curse with Colt there for a while.
Yeah. Let's see. We got a few comments here. Let's see. I'm going to slip back up. Rivero311 said, "Evening, gents." Hardy Hat said, "Hello, you silly humans." Cool Hand said, "Evening, Rivers." JDB 1878 said, "I love the look of a Navy grip on an 1860 Army. It does look different. I like guns that look a little different." JG6 Gun said, "Me too." Hey, Dustin's in. Guns of the West. He said, "Hi, fellas." Hey, Dustin. Young Farm said, "Side note, my folks say hello." Young. Oh, I know who you are. That's Barrett. I think. Alaska True Outdoors. Hi, he said, "Good evening, gentlemen." St. Lucifer said, "Hi, y'all." Cap and Ball Fanatic said, "Just got done looking into it and didn't see it explicit either. Just didn't mention it. Found." Yeah, you're talking about looking for the part where Ben McCulloch tells him those guns will not be used against the Union. I've never seen it. I've heard it, but I've never seen it. Yeah. He says, "That's a bad day. Do you have a Repro Dragoon with the stock attachment?" I don't, actually, but I think Sheldon does.
I have a Belgian 18, or the barrel says 1960 new model Army, but it's a Belgian-made copy of 1860, and mine came with a stock on it. Now, I did talk to a group, they call them Francs. They're all about Belgian Colts, and they're mainly, I think the guy who runs is from Germany.
Mm-hmm.
But showed them all the pictures of the one I have, including the stock, and they said the stock is not original to the gun, but the one I have is one of the first ones made in like the early 1960s.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what stock that gun That I don't know which gun that stock was made for. I can't test it on U-Birdie because my U-Birdie doesn't have the notches for a cylinder for a stock.
Yeah.
And
Move.
then,
Yeah. And I've never had the drain. I would love to have it, but I know I would not shoot it much just because I hate the concussion and the blast that comes back from having your face that close to a percussion revolver, especially one with that much power.
so yeah, when I shot mine, I did shoot a paper cartridges in that Belgian Colt. Is like made real close to the originals. It's not made off of original machinery, from what I understand, but it's like really close to where you shoot paper cartridges out of it without needing to modify the loading port.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the blast from all that gas is bad. I can see, and if you're gonna ever shoot a percussion Colt with a stock, wear eye protection.
Yep.
No matter
Maybe
what.
maybe a bandana across your face too, because that's all right there.
All right.
Moving forward just a little bit, in April of 1861, the war kicks off, and it's just amazing how fast that no patent law went away.
Right.
Like they just gone. You know
Door.
why? Because if you're reading Pate's book, they talk about the war fires off, and they are not ready for it at all.
Nope.
And they go look in the Washington arsenal, and they say something to the tune of 19 spare revolvers. All the rest of them are already in troops' hands. Okay, this is bad. This is bad. Please. And Colt never looked back. He didn't worry about selling civilian after that. He just got his first orders and he started cranking.
Well, I saw that one in Pate's book where the army was trying to keep their very anal inspections on the guns,
Mm-hmm.
where they chuck reject them for just having a little bit, like a little mar in the bluing, a little mar in the grip, and they reject them. And so, like in the beginning of the war, it was getting so bad that they couldn't get revolvers because their inspectors were rejecting really good firearms over little defects. To where they did end up in the civilian market, and they also a lot of some of the officers at the time were buying civilian armies, 60 armies from that was a Graham Schuler and Hartley.
Mm-hmm.
Because they had them in stock while they couldn't get them from the government.
Yep. T. Burkhoff, 600 gems. Thank you. I don't know what that is, but I'll figure it out. Do you know what that is?
I have no idea.
I'll figure it out. I appreciate it. Anytime something shows up a color like that, I click on it because you never know. Let's see. Manny said, can't watch it live, but I will watch the replay. JNW60 said, I think what everyone is really interested in is the 1870 at Little Bighorn. Okay, Turkey Creek said, and this is going to get into a very big part of 1860 Army's war, but I'm actually going to let Sheldon handle it because my mind's going fuzzy here. We start off with, correct me if I'm wrong, almost all of the 1860 Armies being 3-screw Army models cut for stocks.
I think that's the third model. If you want to go, or the third type.
Third type.
Yeah.
So you're saying the first ones are all 2-screw or 3-screw models. I got to stop and think because one time in video I actually counted all the screws and then I changed the way I was saying it because there were more screws in the side than I thought that people were saying, and now I'm confused.
Well, they say 4-screw because if you look at one side, there's 4 screws.
Yeah.
But altogether, there's 5 screws.
Yeah, there's 5 screws. So.
And then it was like the first ones that were coming out were meant for stock, so they came with the 5 screws. And then I think so you could say the first type was the cavalry cylinder or the fluted cylinder with the 5 screws.
Mm-hmm.
And then the second type was the one everyone makes and everyone basically owns.
The one that 1862 is when they started cranking these. The second type.
Yeah, the second type would just have the regular rebated cylinder and the 5 screws. And then it came down to numbers of it just came down to numbers of manufacturing, how to get them out quicker. They were still cutting the notch for the cylinder or for the stock, but they weren't doing the screws And from what I read and understand, there's more of those made
Yeah.
with the stock cutouts, but no screws.
Yeah, a typical what we call a 3-screw model, what they call a 3-screw model with the bottom of the butt cut for the stock, which is interesting because almost all the reproduction, that's by far, like that's 200,000 guns like that, something to that effect. But the reproductions are all of that first 50, 60,000 gun run. Almost all the reproductions are 4-screw models that I have seen. You call it a civilian model. Have you ever seen anything was that considered a civilian model? I don't remember.
It's just what the like Taylors and Cimarron and Uberti offer it as. Now, if you buy a Uberti civilian 1860, it's gonna come with a brass backstrap, no matter who you buy it from. I guess before it didn't, but now it does. So if you want one with a steel backstrap, you're gonna do what I had to do was source all the parts.
Yeah, there were some guns, but later ones that came with mixed brass and steel backstraps. But we're talking, I believe, late in production, maybe even post-war.
Yeah.
So
yeah, the third type with the recoil shield cut for stock and 3 screws, that's the most common that you're going to see. Then after, basically, as the war winds down and the Colt, is able to make stuff again. After they rebuild,
yeah,
they start making the 1860 again, but this time they don't do the recoil shield cutouts nor the little. I think that maybe some of them had notches on the bottom of the grip. I'm not sure, but all of them were just 3-screw full recoil shield, and there's a 5th type, and I think it's like a very slight difference between the 4th and 5th, and 5th. But that's what Colt basically makes until 1872. But in Pate's book, they document some 1860s leaving the factory in the 1880s, but they're more presentation models.
Yeah, and there's actually a few, obviously, that get turned into parts that are dated that get turned into conversions at the factory later on. Okay, so, but yes, Turkey Creek, what you have, especially with the second gen is basically a variation of the second type, which is non-fluted cylinder, 4-screw cut for stock all the way, I believe.
Oh wait, I just remembered something because thank you, Turkey Creek. I have 5 1860s.
Oh yeah, you do have that little.
I have that second.
Why don't you tell us the very frustrating story of your most expensive 1860 Army?
Which one that'd be? That
would be the one that you've put the most money into, and now it's the shortest.
Oh, so so it was my Pieta, the first one I bought. I sent it down to Gary Barnes down in Texas, so he can do his magic on it. He blew the barrel, he defarbed it, blew the barrel, and cut the forcing cone to that 11 degrees.
Beautiful job, pistol.
Very beautiful. I get it back, and I'm sitting there reading a book, and I see a snub-nosed 1860 Army. I'm like, I want a snub-nosed now, and I contemplate on it, and I chop it down.
Avenging Angel, you're tricked out. Forcing cone set. Slicked up. Professional gunsmith. Now it's an Avenging Angel. I'm proud of you. That sounds like something I'd do. Hey, people don't believe me. You start cutting these things up, it gets in your blood. You want to cut every gun after you cut one or two. Oh, that's cool, he says.
So I posted it on a Facebook group, and I forgot Gary was in there. And, I think he didn't do it. He didn't message me or nothing, but I could tell he was mad.
We probably put days into that thing. Oh, that's pretty good.
Now the kicker is, I think 6 months later or a few months after I did that, go to the gun show, and someone's selling another Pieta 1860 Army, But this one was done up different. It was someone made the Type 3 with it. They had a 44 Navy frame with the barrel and cylinder and grip.
Okay.
So now I have a long barrel Pieta and a short barrel Pieta. But the short barrel Pieta was the one that went to the gunsmith.
Alex Miller 880 said, sliding in, Garrett, if you would give Sheldon's channel a shout out so we can subscribe. Thanks, old buddy. We can. He's a Saboteur 45, just like it says there, but you're probably going to find mostly video games over there. I've been telling him for years now, it's time for him to start making historic content. When was the last time you made a YouTube video of any kind?
I think like a couple years ago, and it was Kermit dancing.
And I suppose he didn't have an 1860 Army in his hand either. Are you going to start making videos someday soon? I mean, you already are, basically, because the last 2 videos I've put out, you've been like a major part of the history in them.
Maybe, but I need to think of a name. I'm terrible with names.
Yeah, well, you guys in the chat, give him some ideas. That's the best way to do it. So, I guess we better get back to the 1860 Army. So, we have 44 caliber power. They cut the Dragoon, everything down to about a 22 grain charge, and the conical bullet, and everything gets that cartridge. Even the Dragoons, everything gets a lighter cartridge.
No, I think 25 grain was the average.
25, yeah, okay. And it was a 260 grain bullet to start with for the Dragoon. Do you know what it went down to for the 60 Army off the top of your head?
For like their conicals?
Yep.
I know I want to say maybe it's a 225.
Seems like it. So it was what I'm getting to here is it was still a significant drop in power from the Dragoon. Any way you look at it, because and the Dragoon dropped in power too because everybody basically got the same cartridges after that. Because the Dragoon was pretty well considered obsolete. Now, I think we should go backwards a little bit and talk about how this came to be, because one of the reasons we couldn't originally get a 44 caliber 51 Navy was the steel. The steel was not good enough in any way, shape, or form to pull that off. Until about 1858, when they came out with what's called the Bessemer process, which adds carbon, supposedly makes better steel. Colt advertised this silver spring steel revolver to be 100 times stronger.
Something like that.
And I've actually seen the tests that people have done. It's about 30% stronger steel in the 1860 Armies than it was in the old Dragoon revolvers. But it was enough that we could say we can put this bigger bullet in this small gun and get away with it by beefing up the front of the cylinder. It's interesting because during all of this, Colt had the best British steel right off the bat. And years later, when Remington is getting just hammered by the Army, even post-war, because their guns are blowing up left and right, it did happen a lot. Chain fires. Their excuse was Colt could get better steel early. There was a huge protest in America around Pittsburgh of iron and steel workers complaining these big gun companies are buying their steel. So there's a strike, and the government starts buying more American iron, which is not nearly as good. And even luckily Colt was already about done. But even like the Springfield muskets and everything, the iron and quality in the barrels went downhill because we lost the ability to acquire that good British steel. And most of what we were calling steel that was coming out of Pennsylvania at the time was basically just iron. And so I was doing a study on it the other day, a lot of reports, especially of the earlier Remingtons, well, I say earlier, late war, early post-war Remingtons going to the military that were chain firing, popping their cylinders, just having all kinds of fits and all kinds of trouble. And Remington just flat out told them it's because you won't let us, we can't, we got some kind of embargo on this British steel. We have to use iron. It's not nearly as good. Or better iron than iron. I don't know what all was in that iron. I just know that even Springfield rifles had some issues using it right off the bat. You got anything on that, Sheldon?
I've actually never heard about that part. So,
Oh, it's actually a study that I did because Jake over at Everything Black Powder, he was shooting guns and he said it was an iron barrel. I can't remember what gun it was. Somebody told him no, it was steel, and he asked me, and I went back and did the research on it. In that particular year, I think it was a Springfield. I can't remember. They were actually using iron barrels before a whole lot of things changed. So it's just an interesting piece of history there. Soylent Green said, yeah, lately they are making all the Dragoons as civilian models also. I guess because no one makes wood stocks anymore, just the occasional metal skeletonized ones. What's is your skeletonized?
No, mine's the full wood stock.
Oh, cool. I never got one just because they're almost impossible to come by, and I didn't want to spend that much money on them.
Oh, back when they were available, I was like, I'll buy one soon. I'll buy one. I'll buy one soon. And then, yeah. Well, from my understanding, I think almost all of them came out of Pakistan.
Yep. Old One Guy 994 says, good evening, guys. Young Farm said, make your own. Doug Duke said, just made it, boys. Thanks for doing it. Oh, I'm glad you're here. Okay.
You should have Doug on this sometime.
We're going to. I want Doug and Duke. I want Doug, Dukes, and Duke. All at the same time. So I got to pull that. Interestingly enough, a lot of people think that the Remington took over, which the Remington did take over in 1864. A lot of people attribute that to the Colt fire. But it wasn't just because of the Colt fire, it's because Colt lost a contract. You want to go into that, Sheldon?
So, I might cut it down really short. For some reason, that's why things I do. But Colt basically lost their contract because they were being too expensive.
Mm-hmm.
They were price gouging the government, so Colt was charging the government $25. $25 for the pistol, the flask, and the bullet hole, and a screwdriver. The government's like, well, we don't want those other three. We don't use them.
You signed the contract. You take them.
Yeah. So they're trying to renegotiate, and I think they get down to $22. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, they could buy a Remington for $15. So once they strong arm Colt into lowering it to 18, I think it was 18. They Remington drops their prices down to $12, and governments kind of getting tired of being strong armed by Colt for other prices of their revolvers, so they cancel their contract and stick with Remingtons.
Yep.
But the issue is, Remingtons are Remington.
One thing I would point out here is this was at a point in time we were going through leadership change at Colt because Colt passes away. From whatever you want to believe. I believe gout. Everybody has a different story.
Oh, I've only heard root gout.
Elijah Root. Well, some people say syphilis, but it could be. I don't know. Elijah Root, his master armorer, gets in charge. Root is still trying to be master armorer and president of the company. I honestly think that Colt was a businessman enough that he would not dug his heels in. When the government said drop it to 15 or we're not buying, Colt would have dropped it to 15 because he would not have lost. But you have Root, who's trying to spend all his time every day in the factory and do the president business. He just dug his heels in. He was like, oh, we're living off our name here. We're the first. We're the best. La, da, 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 da. And I think he honestly thought Congress wouldn't, or the Ordnance Board, I should say, wouldn't cut his contract. And they did. And he would have been right in some ways because they didn't cut his contract for very long before they were back begging for more at any price. But fire had already happened after that. and there were no more to be had. I got letters from officers and units and all kinds of people that are getting Remingtons that the iron's subpar, the fitting on them is subpar because Remington's just figuring this all out right now. It's baptism of fire for Remington. And all these letters from these officers and people who are in charge of these military groups saying, send us Colts, send us Colts, send us Colts. And there are no Colts to send. But yeah, it was not because of the fire. It was because of a blunder in business, a business blunder that Elijah K. Root lost the biggest military contract that Colt had ever had up to that point. What'd you say? You're breaking up there a little bit.
Silent Green has a question.
Okay, I'll bring it up here. He said, didn't Colt charge the government for 2 sets of flasks and mold, but they only sent one, or was that the earlier guns that they were selling? Yeah, that was Walker's. That was Walker's. They sold a flask and a loading tool for every revolver for the first 1,000 Walkers, but what they weren't taking into consideration was there were going to be 2 revolvers to every soldier. Every soldier did not need 2 flasks. Colt had already paid for all the material for 2 flasks, and that was a very big deal. But that was back with the Walkers. This was the government literally having 200,000 flasks that they have to store in 1863, because that's about how many Colt had already made. So they got these warehouses full of flasks and tools, and they're issuing paper cartridges. So they're like, hey, it's costing us more money to have the flasks. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay, Doug Duke said Colt production could be beat until the fire. Colt was all business.
I think he means couldn't be beat.
Yeah, couldn't be beat. Yeah. I if they hadn't lost the contract, no, they couldn't have been. Okay, Alex Miller said, okay, let's say it's 1862. You're drafted and taken to a room, has every gun available for time. What's y'all's picks? Rifle, pistol, melee weapon. 60. You're limiting me by saying 62, but I'll let Sheldon go first.
I mean, Spencer was technically around.
What? Yeah.
So was Henry.
Mm-hmm. So you get to pick 3 weapons: a melee weapon, a rifle, and a pistol. What are you getting?
We'll take the Spencer carbine, the 60 Army, and the light cavalry saber. Basically, a cavalryman's outfit.
Yep. If I was gonna go, you guys know me. I'm more into the big bore, big power. I'm gonna just get. I'm gonna walk in there and I'm gonna get an 1861 Springfield because I like the wide bands. The 1863 had slipping bands. The 1864 had a little different style, but I like the 61. That's my style. Revolvers. 62. You're pinching me here because if this was 65, I'm taking a Rogers and Spencer because, believe it or not, it is the best revolver of the Civil War, even if it never gets issued. 62, I'm taking a 60 Army. Now, I've shot almost every revolver of the Civil War except the Savages. I mean, every revolver of the North, I should say, except the Savages. So I don't know how they would react. By 62, we're still talking about a lot of double action stars. I have an original right there above my head, right there. That's a nightmare. No, thank you. 62, the Remington, as we know it today, does not exist yet. That's still the old model Army. That's still the one that fouls worse than the one that we got later because it has no recoil shield cutouts. It's got a totally different loading lever set up on it in 62. It's different. There's 3 variations. The first one, they have the good loading lever, no cutout. The second one, they have no cutout on the frame, and they have a really weird loading lever that's more like a Whitney. And then the third one is the one we know today. They won't come out until 63. So 62, I think I would like a Dragoon, but that's heavy.
Just take a Beaumont and Adams.
Yeah. Well, that's Confederate gun. I don't know if the Union had any. Are we talking Union? Oh, we're talking Confederacy. It might be different.
No, I think, I mean, if you want to be technical, you could have had a lift for sure.
Yeah. Either way you look at it, probably take the 60 Army at that point because
Yeah, I
at
would.
that point it's the most advanced, probably best revolver out there. Maybe the argument could be made for the Whitney, but it has all the same issues the Remington would have in the first two variations. So I'm taking that, and for a melee weapon, I guess I have the bayonet already on the rifle. I'm just gonna take a saber. I mean, it depends on what kind of unit you're in. Also, if this is the South, I'm riding with the Rangers. I'm taking a double barrel shotgun and a brace of navies. Oh yeah, that was an interesting question there. I really did like that. 1862 does put some constraint on it though. It makes it a little more interesting. Same Sheldon, except for Soylent Green said he'd go with the Spencer rifle for the bayonet. Ooh, never thought about that.
It's too long.
Now, did the rifle come out the same time as early? Because I'm not a Spencer expert in any way, shape, or form. Did it come out as early as the carbine?
I think the rifle was actually first.
Was it first?
But I think the design originally was meant for carbine, so they came out. I think they came out right away. Mm-hmm. I think.
Okay. Young Farm said, I thought you'd have had a flintlock, Garrett. Yeah. Actually, I would have, but this is where we're specifically the Army has drafted us and taken us into a room.
Garrett's going out on the battlefield with the Northwest straight gun.
Civil War, there were a lot of smoothbores in the Civil War. And you know what? If I was financing it myself and I didn't have to buy caps, all I had to buy was powder and fine flints. Yeah, sure. But we're going into a room. The Army has drafted us and taken us into a room, so we only really get to pick what the Army offers, in my opinion. Otherwise,
this question said every gun available at the time. So you could have ran out there with a dry ass needle gun.
That? Oh, yeah, I never thought of that. I don't know if the split breech Remington exists in 62 yet. I don't think it comes out till 63 or 4. That would be a good choice. Split breech Remington rolling block.
That was like 64.
It might have very well been. But yeah, if I had my druthers, I guess, honestly, I would take a flintlock. But if the Army's paying for my caps, I'll take the caps.
Right.
We had a about 4-hour long discussion about this the other night, Sheldon and I looked up and it was like 4 o'clock in the morning and I had to get ready for work. It was just a discussion on the merits of cap locks versus flintlocks. You're laughing because Gary must have been up during that whole debate too.
I was at work. So you were keeping me up at work. So.
Oh, sorry.
That's good. I'm supposed to stay awake.
Garrett has an option, that little Scottish Highlander flintlock hidden in your voice. I am not taking. I love that gun, but I would not take it to battle because I can't hit the broadside of a barn from 5 feet with that pistol. That little smoothbore in those sights. I love it, but I can't shoot it. Did you see the video Paper Cartridges put up about original caps versus repros? No, I know a little bit of the difference, but I have not seen his video. Have you, Sheldon?
I haven't seen his video. The only thing I've seen was, I think, Mark Hubs has like a thing comparing the thickness of original caps to new caps, and there's like original Colt caps were a little thicker than what we have nowadays.
Well, he did some research on it, and Duke did the video for him.
Okay.
It's interesting talking about the 1860 Army. Early on, they had an issue with caps because the original Dragoon had which is one's bigger, 11 or 10?
11 has a shorter skirt?
Yeah, well, what happened was the original Dragoon, although it was purchased by the military, was mostly purchased by civilians, and it had a what they thought was a little smaller cap.
Mm-hmm.
And the military bought a bunch of 51 Navies, and they were standardized on a little bigger cap.
Mm-hmm.
Well, when the Army makes the 60 Army, they make it with a Dragoon cap size. So Dreyer, whatever his name is, wrote in a letter, "What in the world is going on? Our caps aren't working." And they're like, "Well, we made the 60 Army with the civilian Dragoon style because you had a no patent law when we made it and designed it. So there was no way you were going to buy it. So now all the cones that are on that actually don't fit the military caps that the military uses for standard." And so early on, there was a big row about cap sizes. And that was when they discovered that Ely's double waterproof was a thicker cap. Therefore, it worked on the 60 Army cones. And this is an interesting subject because you and I were talking about caps the other night when we were having this discussion.
Yeah.
And you showed me how there were, what was there, 6 or 7 different variations of caps at this time?
Yeah, there was like, it was like number 9 all the way up to a pretty large cap, and then the military cap was the little top hat cap that was its own little deal.
Yes.
Yeah, there was number 10, and I can't see those other numbers, but 10, 11, 18, 12, 13. I would say that's a 20. So yeah, they had various cap sizes. And I think all the pocket pistols from Colts to just the Derringer types, they use the smaller caps.
Mm-hmm.
So
you have at the minimum 3 different cone size at use during the Civil War. Minimum. Because Remington comes in with the 3rd model and uses the same cones that they were using on the 51 Navies. So Remington can use all the caps available, and the 1860 Army has to use Ely's double waterproof.
I mean, that would be interesting to try those Ely double waterproof.
Yeah,
that's a mouthful to say. So caps.
Well, it has a thicker wall, so therefore it has a smaller interior.
Like, just sounds a little off topic, but like when we were having that discussion, and I know I told you, but it seemed like only the military use the military caps, while anyone else, unless they were armed with a surplus rifle, they used the other caps. And it seems like number 10 was a universal.
Mm-hmm. My question back then would have been, how common was it to be able to switch the cones? Which probably not, because standardizing the threads would have probably been iffy. So everybody has their own tooling, for especially civilian guns. But I would have been looking around to see if I could put a military cone on every rifle, because I just love a 4-wing musket cap compared to fumbling with a number 10.
Yeah.
But authentically, I don't see a whole lot of evidence of people doing it.
Like, if, let's say, I think if you were out and about, you had your Hawken or your Plains rifle, you wanted the military cap, I think it's going to be more common for the gunsmith to drill it out and tap it for the new cap.
Yep.
The new nipple and caps.
I don't know if the pros would outweigh the cons at that point, but because you have to think that the number 10s are the most common cap.
Yeah.
Everywhere.
Yeah.
Because you can't use musket caps on your revolver. You can. I've done it before, one at a time. But you shouldn't. I actually made a video years ago on the 51 Navy because I was going to go make a video on this 51 Navy. And I got out there, and the only caps I had brought was I accidentally grabbed a tin of 4-wing musket caps. And so the whole video was, if you were in the Army and you had paper cartridges, but somehow all you had was a musket cap, could you fire your 51 Navy? The answer was yes, but only one at a time. He had to watch for chain fires. Oh. Okay, Doug Dukes asks Sheldon. Oh boy, here we go. We're gonna give old Hanson a little bit of advertisement here.
All right, free
what
advertisement.
book are you looking at about the caps?
It's the Encyclopedia of the Fur Trade, Volume 2, the gun accessories, and I forgot the rest of the title. With Volume 2.
So it was that Charles Hanson Jr. wrote that, or was that his son?
His son. I forgot his son's name already.
Hanson. I just call him Hanson.
Yeah, they're just Hansons. But yeah, that's a good book, and it shows a bunch of different caps. So yeah, I think number 10s are more common.
Doug Duke said, "Okay, did you see the video from
Paper cartridges?
Paper cartridges?
No,
I didn't either. I have to watch that." Doug Duke said, "In Oklahoma, there were entire units of Native Americans, so lots of tomahawks there." It's true. Stan Wadey was there. I don't know if I would choose a tomahawk over a saber. Maybe I would. I don't know. It depends on the fighting. What about you? You ought to have a bias.
I mean, either or. You got to get really up close for either or.
Yeah.
I think I'd still go with the saber because if the saber breaks, you still got something short.
Yeah, tomahawk.
You're not gonna be Natty Bumppo running through the forest throwing the tomahawk. You ain't gonna get it back.
Oh, Cap and Ball Junkie said, "You great chat. You guys are currently making my night." Well, I'm glad you're enjoying this. I really am. Turkey Creek said, "I'll take an 1803 and 1805 pistol and a basket hilted broadsword." I'm with you. As long as it's not a Pedersoli 1805 pistol, because those things are junk. Has to be original. Oh, I think Musket Man has. We're straying off the 1860 armies, I know, but Musket Man, the channel, he has a Pedersoli 1805. It's beautiful. He has it decked out, beautiful looking gun, just like Jake's. When he had his thing, won't fire. Just got a super soft risen, won't fire, but it is pretty. Okay, let's see. Great chat, guys. Cap and Ball Junkie said, "Oh yeah, currently I'm making my project more pleasant." Barrett's in here. You know Barrett, don't you, Sheldon?
Barrett
from Fort Larned.
My memory's a little fuzzy.
Okay, I'll tell you later. He said you still fumble around with the musket caps, but not as easily. Yeah, if I'm out hunting, I found it out hunting with double barrel percussion shotguns. I would go out hunting pheasants or quail, when it's 10 degrees, and I'm either wearing gloves or your hands are frozen, and I just found it so much easier to handle musket caps. I converted all my original percussion caps to all my 1830s, 1840s percussion caps now have four-wing musket cap cones on them. I can still switch them back if I have to.
Just remember they had cappers back then too.
Yeah, they did. I had some. That's a whole subject for another day. It is.
All right, we're gonna have percussion caps the episode in 2 weeks.
Yeah. Well, actually, when I get to the Hawken, we'll talk about it.
Okay.
We're getting there. Hawkins, right. New Hawkins actually, or the Great Plains rifle is actually above my head there. I need to get nice. Doug Duke said, "Thanks, Sheldon." Turkey Creek said, "James." Yeah. Hanson. James Hanson. Yeah. Bear said, "Bow and arrow with fire and a boomerang." Okay, so Green said, "I have to find my bookshelf. I have a Sears and Roebuck catalog from 1903, 1908. It has cap and primer sizes in there. You could order. Nowadays, only a few companies still list the primers and number size. With a sword, I'll take a pike spontoon." Okay, so we've gotten to the point of 1864 and the fire with the 1860 Army. Everything I've read, and I could probably draw some of it up here if I go far enough back. But let's see if I can go far enough back with my conversations here to see. We're talking way back. We're talking like 3 weeks ago, 4 weeks ago. Back when Jake was making his video, before the video came out, he was cutting the Remington base pin. We were doing a little research, and I want to see if I can still find it. There were some interesting things I came up with actually in a couple of Remington books, and I can't even remember what they're called right now. As you can tell, I don't read them very often. We're getting there. We're going back. We're going back. I probably could just look at pictures because I screenshotted a lot of this stuff. Mean YouTube comments on Jake's channel. There's a lot of those that need to be answered. Just go back a little more. Oh. We're back in the conversation about why I think 36 caliber modern Remingtons are stupid, and he loves them.
It would be nice to find I think it was an '80s Santa Barbara had some correctly sized Remington navies.
Yeah.
I remember seeing some older guys.
Palmetto made them.
Palmetto made them.
Yeah.
I remember seeing some guys on that Cassidy forum talking about them.
Yeah. It's basically the same size as a nowadays Spiller and Burr, yeah.
Which those look handy, and if they could make them in iron frame, that'd be even better.
Well, I always said I don't understand how they're so loud. Like they're like a 45 ACP. They're boom. And Jake finally figured it out. It's because they don't have those cuts on the frame around the around the force gun.
Yeah.
It forces all that gas and everything comes back. And so it's a cool little pistol, but it's one of the loudest little dudes you will ever shoot.
If I can afford one, I'll buy one. They look fun.
They are kind of fun, but they do bind unless you do what I call the Pierce patch. Even though I know Jacob Pierce didn't come up with it, I still call it the Pierce patch.
Yeah, it works. Well, the thing was before he uploaded his video, I was thinking about something similar, kind of like when you thought about the fix for your subnose.
Yeah.
And we were both like, yeah, it's a pretty ingenious idea, and then
somebody else already had it.
Yeah, so the same thing with me with that Pierce patch.
The Pierce patch will always be the Pierce patch.
Always.
Wait, I'm way back further than I thought it was. Getting closer. Found it. Interesting things. All right, so what we were going to talk about here was whether or not how popular the 1860 Army was compared to other guns. And one page here, and I can't quote the book because I only have a picture of the page and I don't remember it. So the Union Colt was also by far preferred. The Union cavalry at the Battle of Gettysburg, the Colt was also by far the preferred arm. While objections to all the others can be found in the Army COO records, the author found not a single complaint from cavalry officers about the quality, reliability, or effectiveness of the Colt New Model Army, which is what it was called, compared to its peers. The 10th New York Cavalry refused to use Savage revolvers on 8/28 of 62, turned in the 620 issued regiment, even though they were able to obtain only 568 Colts in return. And those were a mixture of Army and Navy models. And it gives a bunch of lists of documentation. It says, but on 12/23 of 63, General Ramsey, or perhaps Captain Belch, wrote the secretary, the superiority of one kind of pistol is a mere matter of individual opinion. Colonel Daniel McCook, commanding the cavalry brigade, thinks Stars are the best revolvers in the service. Others prefer the Remingtons. The majority prefer Colts, principally on account of its general reputation. And Jake sent me back this little meme. Can't tell you can see it, but he said fake news. Okay. The 7th Cavalry, this initial issue of 500 pistols, probably Remington revolvers, which proved to be less popular with the troops of the 7th than were their Colts. On May of 1864, the COO sent the Remington Arms Company an inspection report from the District of Nebraska stating that the Gallagher carbines of the 7th Iowa, and not the 7th Cav, sorry, 7th Iowa, were considered to be worthless and that 2 chambers of their Remington revolvers were often firing at the same time. The following negative comments submitted by the 2nd Cavalry on their Remington revolvers: they were made of poor material, burst at ordinary exercise, 10 to 12 in some companies burst during 1 year of service. Mainsprings were not strong enough to burst the caps. Multiple chambers fired at once, and for some, the hammer did not go far enough forward to burst the caps. Some were noted as being good, but the troops have no confidence in the Remington revolver overall. Some of the Remington revolvers issued to the 2nd have been on hand at Fort Laramie and have been turned in as volunteer troops mustered out of the service. Others have been recently sent there from Fort Leavenworth, and it was probably these that were considered good. Colts have never, Auger said, Colts have never to my knowledge been found fault with in any important particular. He asked if Colts could not be supplied a sufficient quantity of Remingtons that had been thoroughly tested and found perfect be provided to replace the ones that were deficient. The author found no direct response for this request from the Ordnance Department files, but that it was ever acted upon. The defective Remingtons were probably initially replaced with serviceable ones of the same manufacturer, but the 4th quarter of 1870, after this test that happened after the war, 2nd Cavalry had 856 Colts and only 38 Remington revolvers remained. Issues were noted as being for specific units at the Fort Union supported. On September 10th of 1870, Captain Shoemaker, the MSK at Fort Union, wrote the COO asking for arms for the 8th Cavalry and asking for pistols other than Remingtons be sent, as the note on the entry says, filed requisition 2386. One more here, and then that'll be it. On September 30th of 1869, the Department Adjutant General referred to McAllister in a letter from Captain Reuben F. Bernard, Company G, 1st Cavalry at Camp Bowie, Arizona, requesting Colts to replace what he considered inferior Remington revolvers and pointed out the many defects that were in his Remingtons. He stated that the Remington was almost as useless an arm and the men have no confidence in them. Once again, that's the 2nd location we've seen that phrase. The author did not see specific Ordnance Department response to this letter, either to the Attorney General or to Bernard. McAllister received a similar request from Captain Samuel P. Smith of the 8th Cavalry at Camp Halleck, Nevada, in December of 1870, and another from Captain James Hunt of the 1st Cavalry at Camp Grant, Arizona, in early January. That was 1869. Sorry, early January of 1870. He responded by submitting a requisition for 1,500 Colts from the Ordnance Department, but was answered on January 7th that there were none on hand to send them, and he would have to issue Remington revolvers instead. Captain Bernard and George Sanford of the 1st Cavalry were the most persistent in requesting Colts to replace the Remington revolvers. Captain Bernard submitted another requisition in early February, which McAllister forwarded to M.G. George Thomas. The division commander stated that Captain Bernard's company was then armed with Remington revolvers and had 97 on hand. He noted that the arsenal had only got 181 Colt revolvers in store and could no longer get any more. I'm not going to go on, but that was actually from some Remington books, and there was 4 or 5 of them. I can't remember which quote was from which. I just screenshotted them. But a couple of those were from Pate's book too. But the more I studied, the more I saw this all through the war. Inferior quality, made out of poor iron, made out of poor steel. The biggest thing people said were chain fires. They were chain firing left and right. And I probably have 15 records of people requesting Colt revolvers because they're blowing up cylinders and chain firing their Remingtons. All that was just read. I only wanted to point that out to say that since this is a video about the 1860 Army, the 1860 Army was a very popular revolver during the Civil War, even when the Remington came out. And I've told this story before, but when I was younger, old reenactor told me that troops would throw their Colts in a ditch to pick up a Remington. That's not what I'm seeing. So anyway, you got any comment on that, Sheldon? I took a lot of time there.
No, you're fine. I'll take that all the time you want. It's like I personally had never talked to Snapper about Remingtons because you said he had what three of them
Hmm.
original ones,
Yeah,
and he
I have
tried.
one of them now.
Yeah, you have one of them now, and he tries cylinder swapping all of them.
Won't do it.
Won't do it. And I think I've heard him mention before about his. They're all varying quality.
Hmm. And the one he sent me, compared to some of the other ones he has, base pins aren't even the same size.
Really.
Yeah, that's one of the reasons you can't swap them because one of them has a bigger base pin than the other. So, and I don't know. I haven't looked at the numbers to see how far apart they were. I've actually heard that civilian Remingtons after the war were top notch. They really nailed it after 1870. But by then, it didn't matter.
Yeah. Well, it's like I remember. I think it was in '62 or '63. Might have been before that. Or after 60 after the war. But Remington did have a double action that I think used the frame of the new the new police model, which is like 36.
Is Remington Rider?
Yeah. It's like I wonder, and I think they stopped making those because they're too expensive to make.
Yep.
But it's like Remington, was trying to get, they're getting their guns out, but they're, as you said earlier, trial by fire.
Mm-hmm.
Meanwhile, Colt had almost 15, almost a 20-year lead on them. Well-trained staff, and then even after fire, after he rebuilt it, their guns were still coming out at a good quality.
Yep. That's what a lot of people don't talk about, especially pre-war. Colt had a very low turnover rate because he treated his employees extra well. Like you had a 10-hour workday when nobody else had it.
Yeah.
Great housing. He had a polka band for his German but he knew that. He treated and he kept father to son to father, in the few years that he ran it while he was alive. When you think about it, in all honesty, he only ran what we know as the Colt. Technically, the factory that we think of as the Colt factory, he only ran from 1855 to 1862 when he basically got so sick he couldn't run it anymore.
Yeah.
But all of his second run is only 1847 to less than 15 years.
Yeah.
If you don't count that first patent arms Patterson company. But he did a lot in a very little time. But yeah, he did have that amount of time to nail down, because that's all he did. He wasn't worried about, he made a few rifles and stuff, but his whole shtick was nail down making the perfect revolver.
And then, Elijah K. Root making the gauges, making sure everything stays apart, and, charging the employees for screwing up stuff. It probably keeps them from wanting to screw up.
The Lincoln milling machine that he improved.
Yeah.
Root was so good, they sent him to Britain, where he basically designed a lot of the equipment to make the Enfield rifle.
Yeah.
And that is how Colt got into the business of making this Colt special contract muskets. And they were more like Enfields than they were Springfields because Root designed a lot of that equipment. And Colt bought a lot of that equipment back from closed down Enfield plants because it was a cottage industry in Britain. And that is how, and they took that and made it kind of into the third model, or Springfield 1863, and then morphed it into the Springfield 1864 too. So a lot of those guns, Root had a big hand in designing. Even the 1865 Springfield trapdoor, I got letters from Root to Erskine Allen talking about how to design correct size of teeth to make that ratchet that opens it up when that gun opens, how to make the bolt pop up in time and everything, to pop the cartridge out the top of the gun. So we always talk about Colt firearms, but Root was the man behind the curtain. He was the power, in my opinion. He had patents on the 1860 Army we're talking about now. It doesn't exist without Root inventing that loading lever.
So it's like both of those, working at the same company, even though it's Colt's factory. He sought out Root because he knew what Root could do. And they're the one, they kept, even in the wartime when, material was probably hard to get. They kept their quality up. They kept it consistent. Yeah, was there some stuff with the cylinders, with the notches? Yeah. They
we don't
figured out quick at that. They figured that out quick and chucked it out the door.
we don't talk about those first 1,000.
So it's like as soon as that happened, they stayed steadily along looking. I mean, the first 1,000 were doing that. After that, they were good. Even their navies were good, and their 62 navy pocket navies police combination, and they were like putting out these nice revolvers in that duration of time. They burn down, they come back, and they're still giving out those same quality firearms. No, while Remington was you know crashing and burning, trying to get it to consistently. They're making them, but they're not up to spec. Like I don't know if all their gauges and whatnot were just off size from one another, or if they were like kind of like you said, the British cottage industry, where it was like, okay, here's a batch of guns, file the fit.
Yep.
So I'm not sure if that's what they're doing or not. So.
I think you're right there. I do. D has a comment here. He says, with most of the armies using rifled muskets, did the revolver really make that much of a difference during the Civil War?
I think 11 OVC has a short, and they talk about the amount of revolvers in like an infantry unit versus a cavalry unit. In infantry, I think they had less revolvers than the cavalry. But
in the South, it definitely did. But you have to remember, the revolver is established.
Yeah.
Has been established since 1947. Repeating cavalry arms, even though there's a few of these 1860 Henrys out there, they're not necessarily cavalry arms. I mean, no. That's not one. The Spencer is a cavalry arm, but it doesn't get really going hard until late 1863.
Mm-hmm.
So before that, you have your Sharps. You have some muzzle-loaded muskets. You have like the Merrill.
The Burnside, Gallenberger.
But all of these are single-shot carbines. And when push comes to shove as a cavalry unit, you have to lay down a rate of fire. And I think the importance of the revolver can be summed up with one thing. When you count 250 plus 1,000 1860 armies put into service during the Civil War, 200,000 Remingtons put into service. We're at 500,000 there. You start talking about tens of thousands of Star revolvers, thousands of Savage revolvers. The United States military made a little over 1 million muskets. They made probably 750,000 revolvers, or obtained that many. So the musket is more important, but revolvers are just as important to a lot of people. And obviously, that's not as many, but remember, most of the revolvers are going to officers and cavalry. And that's because they're having a very, very high turnover rate because they're wearing them out. Colt revolvers, Remington revolvers, you look at the originals nowadays, you look at the reports, they are constantly going back in for repair. Colt made probably more money repairing revolvers than they did selling new ones and selling parts. And they just wore them out. They used them because cavalry was constantly on the move, constantly into attack, constantly at the front for a lot of things. And so I think the revolver is just as important to the Civil War as the musket. Would you say?
Yeah, I would say so. Especially when it comes down to it, the South was really trying to get revolver production going, just to be at least slightly on par with the North, and they were just failing at it because their Colts, mainly Colts navies, were being used up right away. So they're trying to have all this home. I wouldn't say homebrew. Anyway, revolver production in the South. I think what Griswold and Gunnison made the most.
Yeah, and it was a drop in the bucket compared to
Yeah.
what making.
So revolvers were important because look, the South was trying to do it. The South was importing guns from England, revolvers from England, and that wasn't really, that was probably another drop in the bucket.
Yep. It's a specialized weapon, but very important because at the time, the cavalry was just as important to a lot of people as the standard infantry. So, there's that. Let's see a couple more things here. Doug Duke said 11th OVC is a great channel. Yes, I keep thinking one of these days we're going to run into them at Fort Larned, but we always miss them by one way or the other. Robert Arnett said Joseph Wells carried mini pistols. Cap and Ball Fanatic said thanks for the interesting show as usual. I learned a lot. Got to rest. Been a long day. I'll see you on down the road. Yeah, you rest, and I hope you get to feeling 100% again very soon, Jay Stone.
Yeah,
as we got to find out whether or not that brass frame Colt's going to make it.
Seems like it is.
I think it's going to make it. I have all the faith in the world in it nowadays. Oh, but the 1860 got out of production in 1864 because even after they lost their contract, obviously you could still sell civilian and you could still sell to officers. And so they were still trying to push that. The fire happens. They get out to 64. They really don't kick any production up again until at least 67. And by then, there's not a whole lot of point into it because there's 700,000 plus revolvers on the market surplus. So they make a few. They did not make them in a fish canning factory down by the river. I don't care what anybody says.
That's the first time I heard about that.
It's an R.L. Wilson. He had it's in one of his books. I can't remember which one. He had a serial number he was trying to sell that he stamped the serial number on. And the serial number turned out it did not exist in any range of serial numbers that anybody had records for. So he wrote a whole section of a book about how these guns were made after the fire in a fish canning factory down by the river where they moved all the equipment they could salvage from the fire and made this very narrow 500 serial number range. And I'm the only one that has one. And if you want it, just drop me $50,000. And he got that $50,000.
And he got it.
For about 20 years, people looked all over for those pistols. And everybody's like, oh, there's actually no record of it ever happening. Turkey Creek said, adios, y'all. We'll talk to you later. Turkey Creek's going to be very important in some upcoming videos on Stoke in the Woods. Very important.
Can't wait.
Me neither. But, they get to cranking them back out for civilian use. They make them till 1872. And like you said, the interesting thing is the 1880 production. If you want to talk about that some more, if you can. I can't really. I don't remember enough about it.
I only seen, in Pate's book, mentions how they sold. Some of them left the factory, but they're, more presentation guns. Mm-hmm. Which could have just been, someone just wanted one and Colt had the parts laying around. Because I think with everything that they made, they were able to find. They had a bin of parts laying somewhere, and they dressed them up.
It is interesting when things like that happen because I remember coming across a letter it was something that John D. Breslin, I think, was writing but never completed. But somebody, I can't even remember who at this point, sent me this letter, and I'd like to find it and make a whole video on it. But it was somebody here. This was Breslin's research. He came across in late 1863 an order for 100 Colt's old model holster pistols. Long after they quit making them.
Yeah. Now,
there's no record that they were ever finished, but this was an order that was written to the company by Elijah K. Root himself. So somebody ordered it from him, and he wrote the letter to the factory and said, produce them. As far as I know, they never were produced. But this was right after Colt died. Somebody ordered. So it's kind of interesting how you're saying in 1880, people have, I'm sure 1880 for these people to 1960 was probably like us to 1990 right now. It'd be like people are collecting old Nintendo. You know, you think people were nostalgic for the '60s, you know, and the cap and ball era. And Colt makes this run of presentation 1860 armies. I bet people snap those up. You imagine somebody holding it up to their kid. Now, this is what they had in my day.
I mean, I see what people nowadays in games.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I played back in my day.
I got an Atari 2600 down here. I have no room to talk. On a 1990s TV in a 1990s entertainment center.
I think the oldest console I got right now is a 64 in my place.
Yep.
There's a Super Nintendo somewhere with the third best Zelda game, but you know, we're not going to get somewhere.
We're not going to get into that debate on this channel. Let's start a whole new channel for that debate.
Right.
Oh, but no, I do think that's interesting. I bet people paid a lot of money. It's kind of interesting that Colt didn't redo a run just on the, maybe nostalgia didn't exist then like it does now. But it's interesting that Colt never did a run like that, because when you think about it, even like Gimmer was still making Hawkins, and I think the only thing that was holding them, and even Lehman, a lot of people were buying them because they're, you know, practical and everything. But you got to think that some of that sales that Lehman just kept building and building and building, some of that had to have been people that just remembered the old way or just never wanted to move on to anything new.
I think it is a mix of things. One, they're cheaper. Two, people use what they knew.
Mm-hmm.
And I only heard this, so I can't verify, but I think it's Rock Island Auction Company on one of their videos about a mountain man's gun. I forgot the mountain man's name, but
Seth Kinman.
Yeah, Seth. Yeah, Kingman, and he says when Lincoln wanted to see his gun, he said, "Hey, no, that was the kind of hardware I grew up using."
Yeah. Now, that is an interesting... I'd actually heard about that gun long before the internet. That was one of my childhood, because my grandpa had a magazine where they featured it years ago. And that gun is actually originally a flintlock that has traced to the War of 1812.
Yeah.
And then converted to a cap lock. And then he used it to just kill hundreds of bears. And I think today it's held together by wire and rawhide.
Yeah.
So it is an absolute... you always question, I wonder which bear he wound up breaking that stock over, you know?
Right. So it's like, I think nostalgia did exist for people back then, just not to the level we have now.
Yeah. And, well, think about it. Take the Rogers and Spencer. They kept them in storage till 1901, at least the vast majority of them. I can't say that none of them made it out. But they kept them in storage till 1901, and Bannerman bought them, and he bought them for pennies, like half a penny a piece or something. Turned around, and if you look at the catalogs, he sells them for about 6 months at like $5 or $6 a piece, and they're gone. Like, people bought them like crazy and used them, because I have an original in the other room in there that looks like it's been underground, but it hasn't. It's like people just use the living daylights out of them, even in the 1900s.
Yeah. It's kind of like the thing of Hudson Bay keeping flintlocks until I think the 1880s. But then at that point, I think in the 1860s, Hudson Bay was saying, we can't source flintlocks anymore, or they're getting hard to find anyways.
The last, because I've always said 1913 was the last sell that they made. I heard a lecture the other day. It might have been Doyle Reed. Might have been in that Doyle Reed lecture where he holds up a actual manifest in 1931 where Hudson Bay sold the last Northwest trade guns. So we're talking past World War I.
Into the depression.
They went to the top. It was just article. They went to the top of the Arctic Circle. I don't know who in the world was up there, but they wanted Northwest trade guns.
I mean, it's kind of like, nowadays, the very scant few who shoot 22 single shots for everything.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, evidently they shot some Northwest trade guns at some stuff too.
You can go, buy your brand new Model A Ford, and you get yourself another trade gun. That's a grandpappy shot.
That's why I laugh when I read like the Wooden Legs account of Here we go, Little Bighorn. It came in somehow. But when Little Leg says, what did he say? A quarter of them had repeating rifles, most had bows and arrows, and many were armed with old muzzleloaders.
Yeah.
Like, dude, 1876, a muzzleloader would not be considered old. That's when Laura Ingalls Wilder's writing about her dad hunting in the big woods with a muzzleloader. That's when Lehman is hitting their stride.
Well, he's talking. He's telling his story in the 30s.
Yeah, and I understand that now. But when you read it, and you're like, and a lot of people read it and don't put that into context, and they're like, "Oh, everybody had repeaters already," because muzzleloaders were considered old. That'll be a whole video for another day. We've got to do plains rifles, because I know you and I can talk nonstop for. Yeah.
I think we honestly been reading more about plains rifles at the moment than we were 1860 armies.
Yeah, I haven't done the study on it. I'm just going off the top of my head. Outside of that last little blast of study I did for Jake on who preferred what gun in the war.
Yeah.
Let's read over here. Shane Gable said, "I have an Atari 2600 in my entertainment center right now." Let's see. D said, "I love muzzleloading. Showed a Southern Mountain Rifle flintlock made in 1878 in the Appalachian Mountains." Yeah, it's an interesting. If you go into that country, take for instance Alvin York. In 1915, 14, 1916, he was running around being the best shot in that area of Tennessee, in the Valley of the Three Forks, with a Southern Mountain Rifle that had been converted from flint to cap. And that was now, and when he came back from the war, he moved up to a single shot 22. And it's interesting because his son brought home from World War II an Arisaka and gave it to him, and that became his gun before he died. But right up into the 1900s, it was a flintlock converted to percussion cap, and there were still a lot of those flintlocks running around even at that period in Tennessee because people didn't have money to buy anything else. Let's see. Soylent Green said, "Nostalgia definitely existed. I read Rufus Dawes' book about his Civil War service, and early on, all they talked about was the feeling like the founding fathers marching into battle on the homeland. Among other comparisons, the book was called Service with the 6th Wisconsin, 4 years in the Iron Brigade." We'll take even like Native culture, and I know we're way off subject here, but what was the big thing that was it Red Cloud or Setting Bolt was pushing for the warriors to give up, or not even give up rifles, but at least learn how to use a bow, right?
I'm not sure who said that. You told me before, but that's the first time I heard about it.
Yeah, I think it was. I have to go back and look. It might have been in an Alfresca book, but I think it was Setting Bull.
I think by the late 1880s, early 1890s, when most of the young kids were getting sent off to school and whatnot, yeah, the bow and arrow was dropping off at that point. Mm-hmm. But by the time Black Elk was a kid in the late 1860s, and early 1870s, flint napping was only a thing. Only the old men who were still alive, who probably met Lewis and Clark, knew what to do. So by that point, no one flint napped.
Yeah. We'll delve into this deeper in another video, but I wanted you to, because you've done some research on this recently, conversions of 1860 armies not being made in 45 Colt because the back of the cylinder is too small. So, and also not being made in 44 Henry because the back of the cylinder is too small.
So it's it was the McDowell's Colt conversion books, and he goes into the long cylinder conversions, which were, more gunsmith. And the general consensus that they came out of Mexico or Texas, and they were, the front might be 1860 cylinder, but the back end is going to be something they brazed on, or it could be entirely new cylinder. They cut the water table out, and they cut the recoil shield by like a little bit, about like 3/30 seconds. Then they put a little recoil shield on them, and they used a rim fire. But the ones that the McDowell says he tried putting a 44 Henry in them, and that cartridge is too fat. And so he said it could have been a different 44 rimfire that was around at the time, which and this I think he said the 10 that he looked at. McDowell wrote that book in the 90s. I think, and he mentions how none of them would fit the 44 Henry. I think he was trying to find one. I don't think he ever did. I keep saying I think a lot. It's been a while since I read it.
Mm.
But he said each one showed signs of at least being made by a different gunsmith, and they were all just copying off of each other. Or it was just one gunsmith that started making them, and then as he went on, he got better.
Mm.
But the rim of a 44 Henry would have been too big to fit in the back of even the newly made cylinders, while a different 44 Empire would have fit better.
I've seen, because I've done some of this research before, and I've actually seen one, and I could not figure out for the life of me what it was, because it was a two-piece 1860 Army cylinder made by, obviously, a gunsmith, but it was a two-piece conversion cylinder like you see on a Remington. And I assumed it was in 44 Henry, but then you brought up that research, and I said, what is it? I went back and I looked, and the gunsmith had converted it to 41 rimfire. We're talking Derringer cartridges. Now, he hadn't lined the barrel or anything, so you're just blasting this 41 caliber bullet down this little barrel, this big barrel. But I thought it was interesting. I did, because it was converted to 41 rimfire. Of course, this is where 44 Colt comes from, because they never chambered these guns in 45 Colt.
Yeah.
So the 44 Colt, when Richards and later Mason and Richards and Mason started developing their conversions in 1870, they came up with the 44 Colt, which would actually fit in there and replicate the military loading that the 1860 Army had been shooting beforehand.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm going off my head. Maybe you can help me with this. I probably shouldn't even say it, because my memory is fading on it.
I've been going off of my memory too, so don't feel bad.
It seemed like in 1878, I'm not swearing to this, they slapped together a whole bunch of parts and sold a bunch of just mixed-matched 1860 Army complete cap and ball revolvers. Didn't sell them to the public. Sold the parts to Schuler, Hartley, and Graham, Sears, some other people, Bannerman probably, and they put these guns together and did a late 1870s run of just mix and match cap and ball revolvers.
I've heard about that, and that Schuler, Hartley, and Graham was, I think, the main ones to buy. I'm not sure Bannerman was around yet.
Oh yeah, he's been around since 72. He was really,
okay.
Technically, he was around during the Civil War, because he was 11 years old, and he would jump in the river and dig up right there around New York. He'd jump in the river and pull up old anchor chains and old naval military stuff and take and clean it up and sell it when he was 11.
Huh.
So he was around for quite a while.
Yeah, I think I've heard about Colt basically offloading a lot of their inventory.
Yeah.
And just to get rid of it, that's old. That's old stuff. We're trying to keep production of, especially in 1878. They got the the Lightning, they got that full frame double action trying to come out. Yeah. So they're trying to make room for their stuff.
Okay, Buchanan Ticks. I knew he was going to be here. 36 Navy all the way. I think it's pretty crazy how cleaning practices of black powder arms was forgotten when smokeless came on the scene in 1910s. It seems like by 1920, most people had forgotten. Yeah, the smokeless powder was also the death of a lot of cap and ball revolvers, because people did not understand what they were getting into. And a lot of blown up cylinders on cap and ball revolvers are a result of early 1900s smokeless being used. But I agree with you. We're going to do this someday. We got to do, Sheldon, we got to do a live on the service life in the 36 Navy on the frontier, because I promised Buchanan that 6 months ago, and I never have done it. So this might be the perfect way to do it.
Well, no, I know I have a picture of it on that, because encyclopedia. And this will show you the amount of firearms, I guess, in the hands. This is 1874 on the Red Cloud Agency. If I could find it. It was an invoice to the Foreign Brothers in Denver, or there was either Denver or when they were still in Cheyenne. I think it was when they were in Cheyenne. And of course, I can't find it now. I can't find it. Where is it? But it was, if I can get that. Where is it? Here, I thought I had everything organized, but nope. Oh, hold on. I'll be right back.
Okay. Well, it's actually raining outside. That's weird for how hot it's been. Oh, so I hope you guys enjoyed this. We're going to start wrapping down here in about 10 minutes because I'd like to hold this to 2 hours just for the sake of it being a video afterwards. But Sheldon's got one or two more things he's going to say here. But if you guys have subjects you want us to talk about later on, shout them out in the comment section. Obviously, we're already talking about, if I don't lose electricity here, we're already talking about 51 Navies at some point. We're definitely doing planes rifles soon because that's something Sheldon and I have both been, well, mostly him. He's been reading more than even me here lately. But we'll be doing that pretty soon. Other things you want to cover, other topics. If you want to hear something native, you want to hear something about, blanket guns, anything like that. I don't know if we can do a whole episode on blanket guns, but it would be interesting to try.
I'm thinking about making a blanket gun, but it's gonna take a little. It's gonna take a little convincing myself to do it.
Yeah, it's just that first swipe with the hacksaw. After that, it's all easy.
All right.
Just get through the first one. I've been cutting up so many guns here lately. It's not funny. I'm doing this video. Smoke in the Woods is going to have a video on a very short Remington revolver. Yep. Soylent Green says the same time has passed between the Civil War and WW2 as between WW2 and now. Isn't that weird? Think about. Deck Duke says smokeless powder is a passing fad. Yes, and so are caps. I'll say it. One of these days, we're all going back to Flint.
Yeah, you're gonna be the Flint napper and sell Flint to everybody.
Oh, Ethan can. I can't. I ain't got that kind of patience.
Same.
Ethan can make a Flint for a gun. I can't. I want to break out of some kind of diamond cutting saw and cut him. Oh. All about percussion would be interesting. Yeah, that actually is pretty good. So, I'll supply the lead. Go ahead.
So there's a little snippet, and I ain't gonna read everything. But in 1874 at Red Cloud Agency, they asked, they submitted a requisition. Oh, so I got the thing back mixed up. The one for Front Bros was for some other parts. But to repair Oglala arms, and this shows you how frequent some of the parts broke, especially with living hard life. 25 Remington Navy mainsprings, 50 Colt Army mainsprings, and 25 hands.
They were doubling them up.
Those originals are already tough.
I know they're pretty tough. I don't think I'd want to double an original. Oh, that's interesting. Young Farm said I'll supply the lead.
And 3 Winchester levers.
Shane Gable said I would love a stream on 51 Navies. We'll put that in the list. Maybe after the planes rifles. Maybe we do planes next. We got to do Texas Rangers at some point too with Duck Dukes and Duke and Duck Dukes. The Duke. It'll just be the Duke podcast. So, We got about 6 minutes to hit the 2-hour mark, which will be perfect for the YouTube algorithm. So if you got anything else to throw in there, do it now. We're going to hold on for just a few more minutes. So,
like just a jab at Remington fans. When they were counting the arms surrendered in 1877, there was more Colts than there were Remingtons surrendered.
Oh yeah, by the natives surrendered, and yeah. Well, to be fair, there were a lot more Colts than there were Remingtons in history. So Remington had a kind of a smaller window.
They had a smaller window, but they got surplus out because it wasn't 1868.
Yeah.
And they gave a bunch to the Southern Cheyenne and Arapaho.
Yeah. I always thought it was so interesting. After the war, everybody's begging for Colts, and they have all these Rogers and Spencers sitting in storage that they never even try. All those people would have loved the Rogers and Spencer, I think.
It could have been a thing they inventory them and kind of forgot about them.
Yeah, that's probably true. They're sitting right there with the Remington contract Zouave rifles, right next, as a duelist would say, right next to the Ark of the Covenant.
Right. Yeah, it's like one thing. I wish it really went into detail about just me being nerdy and them just being old men warriors not caring.
Oh, yeah.
Is when you read about the native warriors and they're like, oh, I had a cap and ball.
Didn't tell you any different.
And I had a 6-shooter. It's like,
well, that's Texas Rangers too. You do your little research on that. You're like, okay, who had the Dragoons? Who had the Walkers? Who had this and that? I had a 6-shooter. I had a Colt. Come on, guys, that doesn't help us. Oh.
I like to think when it's a Lakota, they have a Colt. When they're Cheyenne, they got a Remington.
Yeah, this is an interesting subject here. We might have to get into another day, but we can touch on it here in the next few minutes. Cool Hand said, thank you guys for doing this piece on the 1860. I really enjoyed it. Well, I'm glad you liked it. But Buchanan Tick said, do you think many buffalo were taken with blanket guns? That's an interesting thing. I think that we kind of came across as making that video. But go ahead. You're the blanket gun guy.
I'm the authority on that. I didn't know that.
Few of us, you are.
Like with the trappers and mountain men, the same. But frontiersmen, I think they were the ones who more likely did the blanket gun. The Métis, the mixed bloods from Canada, the frontiersmen, mountain men, trappers, all those ones. They were the ones doing more of the blanket gun running on buffalo, while the natives and down to the Mexican buffalo hunters, the Ceboleros, they were using bow and arrows and spears, and you could use a bow and arrow quicker than you can the muzzleloader.
Mm-hmm.
So while it's fascinating, if you ever look up in the Plains native guns and you see Michael Badhand's video about a blanket gun, and the time it takes to reload that, because how long did it take you and Noah to reload yours? If
you're tap priming it, I mean, it's not fast as a bow, but if you were spitting the ball and just touring powder, it wouldn't take very long, but not as fast as a bow.
Yeah, then you have warriors who are using a bow and arrow since the age of 6, and if you jump up to when they first start really buffalo hunting when they're 17,
mm-hmm.
they got 10, 11 years experience there. And cut to when they're in their mid-20s, they got 20 years experience shooting a bow, and they can shoot their arrows into a running herd of buffalo, no issue.
Yeah,
and they could and each warrior's bow was painted to their specific color, so their pattern. So and if your arrow hit that buffalo first, that was your buffalo.
Yeah, I was first introduced to the concept. Well, I mean, years ago when I was little, I'd go to these talks that were done actually by a man named Dove back then, and then I seen Michael Badhand's talks years ago. So I was introduced to that, but I didn't really pay attention until, if you guys don't know him, Henry Crawford, which we've done some historic living stuff with him, both Sheldon and I, and he was the first one who introduced me to what he called his buffalo gun, or his buffalo running gun. And I didn't see it. I've seen it in pictures, but he told me about it. Which he has a brown bess, which is now you're talking a 70 caliber. And he has it cut off, and he was using it. I can't remember if it was for Taos Mountain Man era, but he was using it for, I think it's Comanchero's impersonation, and he had some study done on that. But when you're talking about something like that, you're talking about a Brown Bess, a 70 caliber, smoothbore. Absolutely, I think that would do the job. And he had the 70 caliber cut down to about that long, to where when he set on his laps, it wasn't any wider than his legs. So
blanket guns tend to be made when you couldn't get a pistol, because they tend to be about this roughly same caliber, unless you're Henry. You need the Brown Bess.
Mm-hmm. Ours isn't, the one we did isn't actually based on anything other than my memories of one that Michael Dove did years in the early 1990s.
Mm-hmm.
And his, I don't think, was original either, but it's a concept of one that is believable, I think. But it's not necessarily like Michael Badhands, who cuts the stock off and then thins everything out, and it's a Northwest gun, and he's literally shooting it like a pistol. So anyway, all right, that's it. I think we're going to go a couple more comments here. To answer that question, Buchanan, I think a lot of Buffalo were taken by blanket guns or that style of gun, but probably, like Sheldon's saying, probably more on the Comancheros, trappers, people like that. Okay, Cool Hand said, how about doing one on natives obtaining ammo for their guns? Boy, that's a whole subject that we could talk about, too, for a long time, because we talk about it quite often.
We could combine that into the Plains guns or trade guns.
Yeah. Where did the Plains natives source the wood for their bows?
Cricks.
There's actually a video out on Bill's. I'll give you a quick shout out. I think it's called Bill's West. It's Bill Bailey. He did one on juniper bows recently that was pretty good, I thought.
I'm trying to so depending on your area, you have different kind of woods.
Mm-hmm.
Here in the Northern Plains, ash and elm would have been your best bet. Mm-hmm. There's some juniper around here, but not too much.
Down here, the Osage.
I keep trying to get some off of Garrett, but he doesn't.
What is it? Chokeberry?
Choke cherry.
Oh, choke cherry, whatever it is. I don't
know. Yeah, that's what they use for arrows too. Trying to get some Osage orange off of Garrett, because apparently that's the best bolt. So I guess the French name for Osage orange is bow wood.
I gave you a 125-year-old hedge post, and you didn't want to use that.
There's cracking in there in every area.
Well, when you come down here, we'll have to chase. What do they call it? Chasing the rings or stays down out of one of those young ones. Okay, young farmer. Barrett said, "Come down to my place." Bill's Historic West. Yes, Bill's Historic West. Doug Dukes. He's a guy that's in there with Henry Crawford and a lot of those older guys who trained Duke, who kind of in a way helped us get started too. So there's a little bit of lineage way back there. But let's see. Desert Rat said, book titled Native American Archery by Lubin. Buchanan said, George Catlin talked about them using both bows, lances, and loading their fusees with a handful of powder and naked ball to great effect. Cap and Ball Junkie said, thank you both. Okay, guys. Thank you all for coming out. I hope you enjoyed this. I hope we covered most of the 1860 Army history and a whole lot of other stuff. Thank you, Sheldon, for coming on and helping this, because most of the stuff I couldn't remember. And we'll see you guys in 2 weeks. What do you say, Sheldon? Plains rifles in 2 weeks?
Sure.
I think we ought to do it. Okay, we'll see you all later. Bye.
Bye.